What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So the EU Parliament has refused to hold a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. I think that was a couple of days ago. And some schools in Oklahoma also refused to do the same when they were asked to. And that is weird, a bit crazy, because people usually, even though they don't agree with the public figure, they still get some sort of public symbolic recognition after passing, right? But this time, everybody is just saying no. And please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Credit goes to all the original creators. We'll be back with some commentary.
Madam President, dear colleagues, the murder of political activist Charlie Kirk, a husband, loving father, and patriot, has shocked the world. We must strongly condemn political violence and rhetoric that incites violence. Please stand with me in reflection and prayer in his honor, and I yield the rest of my time for a moment of silence.
Herr Kollege Weimers, wir haben abgesprochen und Sie wissen, dass die Präsidentin hat eine Schweigeminute abgelehnt. Wir fahren daher fort. Wir kommen zum Bericht von Herrn Stefano Bonaccini. Die Präsidentin hat die Schweigeminute abgelehnt. Bericht von Herrn Stefano Bonaccini zur Zusammenarbeit zwischen Durchsetzungsbehörden im Hinblick auf unlautere Handelspraktiken in der Agrar- und Lebensmittelversorgungskette. Abstimmung, Eintritt in die interinstitutionellen Verhandlungen. Wer ist dafür? Wer ist dagegen? Wer enthält sich? Angenommen. Der Ausschuss kann damit unverzüglich interinstitutionelle Verhandlungen aufnehmen. Vielen Dank. Gemeinsame Entschließung. Sehr geehrte Kolleginnen und Kollegen.
They said, and we ain't about to hold no moment of silence for that motherfucker. We know what he was about. Y'all ain't about to pull that shit over here. What y'all pulling out there in the U.S. We know exactly who that man was and what he stood for. We ain't having no moment of silence for shit. They started making all kind of fucking noise. They said, y'all can get the fuck on with that bullshit. Y'all not about to pull that shit over here. Take y'all moment of silence and shove it up your ass. Because y'all not about to force us to have no moment of silence for a social media influencer who spread hate speech. If y'all wondering what she said, we already discussed this and the president told you no. If you want to have a moment of silence, do what the fuck you supposed to do and request it at the beginning of the plenary like you're supposed to, which that already passed last week. So if you want to have a tribute, then you can request one at the beginning of the next one next month. We're not playing them fucking games that y'all playing over there. So y'all can miss us with the bullshit. That lady was like, you're not even about to get 2 seconds of silence. As soon as he was done talking, she started talking and everybody started making fucking noise. So much for the moment of silence.
I got so very excited I didn't even log his name. So he stood up and he was like, oh, Charlie Kirk, he was a father and a husband and smallest violin in the world, and how they're supposed to have a minute's silence to honor his memory. And then the vice president of the European Union turns around and she's like, no, held to the no, because we've already had this conversation and the president of the European Union said no. But yet here you are attempting to do this again and I say no. And then all these parliamentary members started tapping on their desks like, they were like, held to the no, do we want a minute silence? We're going to cause a ruckus and a whole lot of noise. That was not on my bingo card, because I have seen all these politicians, even Keir Starmer, going, oh, my hearts, my thoughts and prayers, to one of the most obnoxiously vicious, racist, anti-Muslim, anti-Palestinian, anti-trans, anti-woman, anti-consent, pro-guns. Ugh, God, this man pushed the narrative of violence and aggression. And if he would have had more power than simply being able to talk and debate with students half his age, then God forbid what would happen to this world. And the problem is, his death has now given the green card to people who share the same beliefs as him, but wield more power. So yeah, kind of glad that the EU were like, hell no, not on our watch. But Keep your eyes on the politicians and the leaders and the activists and the content creators, even the ones that are supposed to be on your side, that are telling you that you should feel sad, that you should mourn his death, that you should give a minute's silence for him. Watch and log all of those names.
By the way, 20 minutes after he was killed, before anyone made any announcement, the Israeli Prime Minister tweeted about it and wished and gave condolences. So the first big name to tweet about this or to say anything about this is the Israeli Prime Minister. And then Donald Trump requested flags be flown at half-mast. Do you know why this is a big deal? A sitting U.S. senator or a sitting Congress, I can't remember. Remember the lady from Minnesota who was killed in her was it a senator, state senator? Yeah, a state senator was killed in her sleep, and her husband too. And we didn't fly a flag at half-mast, but Charlie Kirk gets killed. And I'm not going to make commentary on his killing because I don't see any way that affects black people or the black community. So, yeah, but all I'm saying is we're having a moment of silence because of a blogger. We're having half-mast because of a blogger. Meanwhile, politicians have faced worse fates or have gone through the same thing, and we didn't give them the same level of respect.
Oklahoma is forcing the kids to have a moment of silence for Charlie Kirk. This is what the fuck they sent out to the parents. In light of this recent tragedy, Oklahoma schools will join together to honor the memory of Charlie Kirk, who engaged high school and college students to talk about American exceptionalism. So they said he challenged students to think for themselves, value free speech, and engage in meaningful debate. I'm skipping a couple words. Tomorrow at 12 p.m., September 16th, our schools will hold a moment of silence and reflect on his legacy. We invite parents, families, and Oklahomans everywhere to join us from wherever you are and unite in remembrance. Why does my children in elementary school who don't know nothing about somebody being shot or assassinated need to have a moment of silence? This man said if a little girl's essay, she should not be able to have an abortion. Why is my daughter having a moment of silence for him? Like whoever the board of education is, he's trying to use this to incite anger and riot, because a lot of people not fucking with this. If you want to have a moment of silence and do a whole memorial service, do that at home. But don't force that shit up on other people, because you don't know what people beliefs in their religions, and he didn't disrespect the cultures, he didn't disrespect the beliefs, and you're gonna force these kids to have a moment of silence for them. So people are keeping their kids at home tomorrow.
It's a public school. You don't get to tell people they have to mourn for someone that they may completely disagree with everything he's ever said. That's not how it works. They have a moment of silence already in every public school in the United States, and that's great. That's a good time for kids who want to pray, for kids who don't to not, or to sit there and do whatever. You don't get to tell all the kids they have to have a moment of silence for Charlie fucking Kirk. He's not even... It's like, he was a celebrity, really. Are we going to start doing this for celebrities? Is Kid Rock going to get a moment of silence? We didn't have one for Hulk Hogan. Why the fuck are we having moments of silence in public schools for Charlie Kirk? It doesn't make sense. They have pushed back. A lot of the schools have pushed back and are saying they're not going to do it. We already have a moment of silence. We're not going to disrupt the middle of our school day. What will happen if they don't do it? I don't know. Entire thing is just absolutely absurd to me. I don't get it.
This might be a controversial take, but people are allowed to be selective with their empathy. And if you go around spending your entire political career inciting political violence against minorities, then don't be surprised when they celebrate your death. And the amount of white people that are getting on here and are demanding that these minorities show this man who incited so much political violence against them empathy is fucking wild. People are allowed to be selective with their empathy. It doesn't make them a bad person, doesn't make them a good person either. It's a very morally neutral thing. And like I said, if you go around spouting so much political violence and inciting so much hatred, don't be surprised when people celebrate your death. You've reaped what you sowed, honey. He has not shown a single ounce of empathy towards any of the minorities he has incited political violence against, so they don't owe it to him either.
We already have a moment of silence in the morning before school starts. You can say a prayer, you can conjure fairies, you can sit in contemplation, meditate, do whatever you want. We already have a moment, and we're not going to interrupt the school day with another moment of silence. And that, to me, is brilliant. So say what you want about Oklahoma schools, but they just stood up to this special man who's our state superintendent, as well as that whole, you know what, I don't know what the community guidelines are at this point. I don't want to say any naughty words, but I feel like that was a really nice stance that Oklahoma schools took. My district that I live in, the one where my kids went, the school district I used to teach at, friends of mine were like literally sending me screenshots of their districts saying, no, thank you, no. So, yay.
After watching the clips, it really makes you think. I mean, on one hand, some say that institutions are right to not honor Charlie Kirk because of his rhetoric and controversial statements. On the other hand, others feel like death should always be met with some level of respect regardless of, politics and all that. But honestly, it shows just how polarizing he was, because even when schools and parliaments are saying no, that is a big statement. Do you think refusing a moment of silence is justice, or do you think it's crossing the line into some sort of disrespect for the dead? I really want to know what you guys think about this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Drop your thoughts in the comments, and I'll see you on my next one.